What's up, everybody? That's our hey. What's going on, everybody?
Hello.
We missed y'all. We missed y'all from last week. Hello to our wonderful callers that are calling in on the line. Hello, thank you for the hearts so early. Hey, Kiana. Let go and let God. Hello, Miss Jazz 23. Ashley, hello. Banke, hello. How's it going? Hello, C. Matthews 10. Oh, hey, Cheryl. I hope you're feeling better. Hey, Dove Style Mag. Oh, I like that. Hey, Banke. What's going on? I was with your wonderful sister yesterday.
Hey, Banke.
Hello, everybody on the line. Thanks for joining us tonight. Please share this with your followers. It's going to be an interesting topic. Interesting topic. We're going to talk about how we jacking our kids up.
Slightly. We don't mean to.
We don't mean to jack our kids up, but we're not doing that great of a job. But you know what? After today, we're going to create a new normal. If you're going to create a new normal in your home with your kids and with your family, even your adult children, give us some hearts. It's like, you know what? I'm going to do a little bit better. Hey, Jasmine from Facebook. She's like, it's Jasmine from Facebook.
Hi, Jasmine.
Hi, Jasmine from Facebook. This is Adrienne and Donald from Periscope.
Hi, how are you?
So welcome also those of you that are on the line with us. Our topic tonight is becoming dysfunctional. Keeping our kids from becoming dysfunctional adults. So we have 10 things. Well, I have 10 things, and the husband has some things that he's going to share with us about it as well. And I think we're just going to talk about some of the things that we encounter each day, even with our own children.
Yes.
And now, for those of you who don't know us, we've been married for 16 years. It'll be coming up this June will be 16 years. Shut up.
You sure?
And 16 years. And
wow.
And we have two kids, 13 and 11. So that's a very interesting age. These days, 13 is like 15 and 11 is like 16, right? So yeah, we've been married 16 years coming up. So it's been a long time. And so we know a little bit about it. So share this with your followers, especially if your followers got bad kids.
Please
be
share.
like, ma'am, you need to be on here, okay? Because you know your kids is bad.
Kayana, please share.
Please share with somebody because you know, and you know, do it discreetly. Share that. You know, some people you can share Periscope too, like personally, so they would be like, oh, so you trying to say my kids is bad? Yes, boo, your kids is bad. Okay,
I'm saying that your kids are bad.
No,
just
not
saying
bad,
that you
but
could
you know,
possibly add or learn from the discussion.
Yes, he's the nice one. We're good cop, bad cop.
I didn't say
He's the
any
nice
of
one.
that.
He's gonna be talking about the kids in a minute. Hey, Trina.
Any of that.
Okay, so the first thing, so how we got to this subject. They know they kids bad. You know, boo. You know what, Kayana, you my friend, cause you get it. Those of you that are on the line, if you have any questions, just hit *5 on your phone once we get to that period. Those of you that are watching live on Periscope, go ahead and ask your questions, and we'll get them. Get them. If we miss them, just keep asking until we answer it. Okay. So the first question, or how we got to this subject, was that I wanted our children to do the 5 love languages. Mm-hmm. So if you have not done that, go to 5lovelanguages.com and have your kids take that survey. We learned so much about our children.
Wonderful.
We do it every year for our marriage, but every other year or so for our marriage, just to make sure that we're keeping in contact. Hey, Sweet Poetry, just in case we're keeping in contact with each other and connected. So we decided to do it with our kids last week, and we learned that it's also a love language, and it's an apology language as well. So make sure that you take those tests with your kids, because you really get to learn a lot about them. Then you're like, oh, that's why, when I say this, you act like this. So we learned that our daughter's love language is quality. No, her love language is quality time. Yes. So she's always like, can we spend time together?
Daddy, can you watch a show with me?
No.
She wants me to come watch a show with her after
we want to go to bed. We don't want to watch a show, right? But that's what she likes. She likes quality time. She loves vacations. So whereas my son, our son, he likes his love language was words of affirmation. So what I say, what my husband says,
yes.
that means a lot to him, and we didn't know that.
But it makes sense.
But it makes perfect sense because now we know how to be the kind of parents to them that they need us to be, so that they can feel like they're a part of the family. So go to 5lovelanguages.com, take the love languages quiz and the apology language. Our daughter Adrienne, her apology language is restitution. So, and that happens to be my apology language. If you don't know your own love language or apology language, go and find out. What is your apology language? What is your love language? It's going to help you in all of your relationships. I've done it with my friends. I've done it with my staff. I've done it with a lot of people. So go and do the five love languages. What age would you start them? It has a little block on there. It asks you how old your kids are. It's like 6 to 9, and then 10 to 12 or something like that. Now, for one of them though, I had to do it through my email, but the results were still the same. So
apology language.
Yeah. So if your kids are really not good at reasoning yet, maybe 7 or 8, maybe a little too young. So if they're teenagers or if they on Instagram. Right. They need to take the test, right. Okay? If they got their own Periscope. Well, most kids are on Periscope, but if they have their own Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, they're old enough to take the test, okay? Now, so take the love languages. So I would say that's your number one. Find out to make sure that your children are not dysfunctional adults. Number one, take the love languages test. Have them take the love languages test. Have them take the apology language test so that you know what you're dealing with. And then talk about it with them. And then make sure you do it first so that you can understand the results and you can explain it to them, because they are going to have questions. And our kids we had a great family discussion after taking the test. So your number one is, the topic is 10 things to keep your children from becoming dysfunctional adults. Number one, learn their love language, learn their apology language. Okay? Number two, go ahead.
And with that, put it into practice. Now that we have a clearer understanding of our kids' love languages and their apology language, then we've learned to communicate in their love language. So right. It's not so, I'm not going to say annoying, but when my daughter wants to spend time with us, we know where that comes from, because that is her love language. So right. I know that it's important sometimes she just wants to watch something with me, or just wants to spend time just with me. Sometimes she wants just some time with her mother. Sometimes she wants the whole family to be together. Yeah. Sometimes we don't have to do anything. She wants to be in our room. She wants to be just in our presence. And so rather than just being like, dude, just go somewhere.
Go to your room.
Or whatever. We indulge her. Yes, she is a tremendous daddy's girl.
Tremendous.
But, we learn to indulge her, and we learn where that comes from. The same thing with my son. My son is huge on words of affirmation. Yeah. He likes it when I give him a compliment. He likes him when I tell him that I'm proud of him. Yeah. And then also, because that's their primary love language, we also know that that's the place where they can be most vulnerable at as well. Mm-hmm. So my daughter likes spending quality time with us. So when she doesn't spend time, or when she feels detached, that's a huge area of vulnerability for her.
That's right.
My son's primary love language is words of affirmation. So it just like words build him up, words can easily tear him down also. So we have to be very, very cognizant of their love languages, because those are the areas that they're most vulnerable in as well.
Right. And so even with raising a black male, especially with being a black female, raising a black male, we can be very, very critical, not even realizing that we're doing that. So I've had to learn how to be very careful with what I say to him, how I say it, even with how I talk to my husband in front of him, because he's listening to this and he's hearing this over and over again. So ladies, especially if you are a woman of color, you have to be careful about how you treat your sons, because don't be mad when he bring home a girl from another, nationality or whatever, and you're like, well, she ain't black. Well, boo, you wasn't that great of an example, okay? So I really had to kind of check myself and really bring up my level of communication with my son. So number one, find out their love language. find out their apology language, and it's going to help you be a better parent.
And even too, with the love languages as well, utilize each other. My wife helps me to have that delicate balance when it comes to quality time with my daughter, or how I handle her. I'll get my wife's input on before I address her in a certain way, or some things perhaps I'll only allow my wife to address with my daughter, and sometimes there's some things that my wife will have me address because words are very important to him. So how something comes across from his mother may be very, very different than how it comes across from his father. And so we want to be very, very careful not to baby him or belittle him or dismiss what may have happened, but to make sure that the message gets delivered with the intent and to produce the result that we're hoping for it to produce, and not get lost in interpretation, mixed in emotions. And the same thing with my daughter, making sure that we have those proper boundaries. Even as we're spending quality time, there's still some things that only she and her mother are going to do together versus, and then sometimes only she and I are going to do, or some conversations that we're only going to have, and those types of things. So utilize each other as resources as well, as you're communicating with your children in their various love language.
That's good. That's good. Number 2, have family meetings. Have family meetings. Don't wait until there's an issue in your family. Then y'all want to sit down and be like, we need to have a meeting because y'all eating up all the chicken. Okay? Don't just have a meeting when there's a problem. Have family meetings to talk about a vacation. Have family meetings to talk about, how was the day? Many of we're so busy we don't eat dinner together because one of the kids are at basketball, somebody's at track, somebody's whatever, one of the parents working late, whatever the case may be. But schedule a family meeting. And some people say, well, how is that helping them be better kids? Because what we've learned dealing with adults, most men don't know how to communicate because they've never had an environment created to communicate. So they only communicate when there's an issue or when they're being, reprimanded or whatever the case may be. So I don't want my son to get into a situation with a woman or with a wife and he doesn't know how to communicate. He doesn't know how to express himself. So we are teaching them how to. That's when you learn when they use sentences out of context or to use words out of context or they say words. I'm like, nah, boo, that word, that don't mean that. So, correct certain things to really understand. Family meetings also will bring out problems. Maybe my son doesn't feel comfortable talking about something, but my daughter may bring it up. Now, she don't have no problem sharing her issues, okay? But my son, he might,
I was thinking that too.
Yeah, he'll be like, he'll get on the bandwagon and be like, yeah. But my daughter may be the one to bring it up. Have a family meeting. Create an environment where your children can express themselves and not when there's a problem. Did you want to back?
Yes, and also in those meetings, create the agenda or create the atmosphere where their feedback and their input is valued. Sometimes people have family meetings and it's really not a meeting. It's really just an information. It's
or
really,
a gripe session.
Or it's really just to lay down the law of how something is going to be. Okay, we're not going to have a family meeting about the family vacation and just tell everybody what we're going to do. We want to get everybody's input. We planned a trip this Thanksgiving. And so we had a plan together of what we wanted to do. Everybody had their input on different activities that they wanted to do. We put together a budget. My daughter was in charge of certain things. My son was in charge of certain things. We were in charge of certain things. So it kept everybody involved. It gave everybody a voice. Sometimes in family meetings, it's really the parents kind of just laying down the law.
Right.
But to make it a learning opportunity or a teachable moment, ask your kids questions, ask them for their input, and it puts them in a position where they have to express themselves or they have to say something.
Yeah.
And that gives you the opportunity to coach, to correct, to make sure that they're using things in proper context, to make sure that they understand. Does everybody comprehend what we just talked about? Is everybody leaving from the meeting with the same understanding? What are the takeaways? What are we going to bring back? Those types of things. Value your kids' input in the family meetings with certain boundaries, and certainly because at the end of the day, there are some areas where we're going to be the parents and they're going to be the children.
Right.
But where it's applicable, to where they can have feedback, where they can give their ideas and their suggestions, we certainly apply them when it's applicable.
That's good. So have family meetings. That's number 2. Number 3, don't be crazy with the kids. Okay, now I need to break that down a little bit. Now, a lot of these things I got from our kids. We asked them. We were like, okay, so how can we be better parents? Ask your kids how you can be a better parent. Some of y'all are too afraid to ask because you're afraid of what they may say. And this is a good time for you to find out. Even if you have adult children, even if you have a situation where you're like, maybe, this is the thing that gets me about some parents that have adult children. They be like, well, I did the best I could. Ma'am, okay, you probably did, but humble yourself a little bit. I've had to humble myself with my children. My husband has had to humble himself. So just because they're children doesn't mean they don't have an opinion or just how you say things. So don't be crazy with them. I had a yelling problem. I'd be like, yeah. This one could walk in the door. He don't say nothing. He just look at them and they're like, oh my God, daddy's home. What didn't I do? I'm like, I've been home with y'all all day and y'all ain't said a word to me, right? But that's a good thing because I've also created an environment where he has the final say. He is the authority in the house. So when I go to him, he's backing me up. He'll be like, okay, do what your mama said. Now, our single sisters, if you have a situation, it is important that you have, I don't like the term uncle if he ain't really your uncle or they uncle, okay? But have a male figure, a pastor, a youth pastor, a neighbor that ain't trying to touch on your kids or whatever. Get somebody that's a male figure that maybe needs to talk to you. I think males are good for both males and females, for boys and girls, because there's just something different about that male voice that's in their lives. But don't be crazy with the kids. Don't yell at them. Please stop cussing at your kids. Please stop cussing your kids out. I don't care how angry you get, how frustrated you get. Did you know that profanity is a form of perversion? It's no different than using your mouth, using your hands to watch, your eyes to watch porn, your hands to gratify or satisfy yourself. When we use profanity, it's perversion because we're using it. Perversion means perverted. It's not the way it's supposed to be used. Right? Yeah. Using profanity is a form of perversion because our mouths, the Bible says, blessings and cursing should not proceed out of the same mouth. So if that's the case, I have no business cursing my children out, calling them out of their names and, all that kind of foolishness. That's not of God. And then we're trying to figure out, well, why are they so mad? Because you done cussed them out. If you're so when they get to school, he done cussed out the teacher. Now, we don't talk like that, boo. He overheard you on the phone talking to your husband or your mama about something, and you was cussing whoever out about that. So all of that stuff plays a role in how they interact with each other, how they interact with other people, how they connect, how they engage, if they have friends or they don't have friends. Look, all the hearts gonna stop now. Stop cussing out your kids. I don't care. You got to stop cussing your kids out because you're making them crazy. They don't know what's right and wrong because then when they get to school, their teachers are like, why are you using that language? Well, my mama cussed, so what's the big deal? You want to add to that?
And in addition, not using profanity is vitally important, but life and death is in the power of the tongue. Calling our children names that aren't necessarily profane names, but they have a negative context. Your child can become what you say they're going to be. You keep calling your son trifling or your daughter, telling her she's just nasty and she got a bad attitude. That's all. You can speak that into existence.
That's right.
If you speak that over your children consistently, then that's what they can possibly become. That's what they internalize. And so we have to be cognizant, not just when it comes to profanity, because that is very, very important as well, but there are other forms of verbal abuse or things that are verbally inappropriate. Sometimes we have those same, we need to make sure that we're not having those types of conversations with our children as well, making sure that we're speaking positively. Even if we need to correct them, there's a right way to go about correcting them without breaking their spirit, without tearing them down emotionally and verbally, because sometimes that damage can't be undone.
That's right.
To undo the damage, it takes a lot of work. So sometimes we as parents have to exercise even more restraint with the words that we use, the choices that we make, how we say things, the tone in which we deliver certain things, to make sure that our kids feel our heart.
Yeah.
When we are addressing them, and not necessarily the anger that may be behind it. I can be upset with you. I can be disappointed in you because I know that you are better than this. I know that I taught you better, and I'm going to correct you, but I'm going to correct you in love, and I'm going to correct you in a loving way, and not make you feel like you're some sort of beast or some trifling individual.
Yeah, and I know some of y'all are like, wait a minute. So cursing my kids out is a form of perversion. Yes, because it's not supposed, your mouth is not supposed to be used to tear people down, even your kids. And I know some of you are like, well, my parents cussed me out and I turned out okay. Right, okay. We want our kids to be better. We want our kids to go to another level. We don't want our kids to be just like we are, because even though we may think we're all that, we're really not. We all have work to do. So we have to make sure that we understand that every curse word that you've ever spit, every curse word that you've ever cursed out, when you've cursed out your child, you're adding to any dysfunction that they already may be dealing with. Okay? So, number 4, don't do what you wouldn't want them to do. In other words, be the example. Please don't be those old school people that be like, do as I say and not as I do. Like, what? No, do as I say and not as I do. That's not good. It's not good to not be the example. You want to be the example. You want to set the standard. So if you don't want them to use profanity and cuss out all the teachers at school, don't cuss them out at the house, or don't allow that in your home. If you don't want them to watch porn, you don't want them to cheat on their spouse when they get married, whatever the case may be, don't do anything that you would not want them to do. Be the example.
Yes, and with that, I heard you mention the phrase of when people talked about, my parents cussed at me, and I turned out okay. We have to take the accentuate the positive, build on the positives from our parents' experience, but also erase some of the negatives. Everything that our parents did when they were rearing us, it may or may not have been appropriate or effective, or what worked then may not work now. So don't just repeat the same cycle just because. You know good and as well that you don't want your children using profanity with the teacher. So just because your parents may have used profanity with you, that doesn't mean that we should use profanity with our children.
That's right. Absolutely. So the next one is number 5. We're on number 5 now. Don't force religion down their throat. Don't force religion down their throat. Now, what we do, we are technically, you can say Pentecostal or whatever word of faith. We just Jesus, whatever that means. Okay, we're whatever. So we don't force our kids to love God. They know this is a love kind of house. This is a Jesus house. As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. Okay. That's what we do. Now, they understand that. My kids have even said, Mom, you're obsessed with God, which I'm glad that they made that statement, because I want it to be a situation where they understand that. But we do not force God, religion, church. Do we go to church? Absolutely. Do we endorse church? Absolutely. Do we force it down their throats where they have to love it and they got to sit there all 25 hours a week and they got to go to school and we late? They miss school because they was at church last night. No, that's ridiculous. We don't force them to do anything as far as the Bible is concerned. They do have scripture that they have to that they read. We made them. We asked them or admonish them to make sure that they learn scripture and get to know it. So one project I did with them is I had them go through their Bible, and I said, pick 10 scriptures that will help you get through your day. And when I went through those scriptures, I was like, hey, they were so excited. I was like, yes. I was like, this is great. And I did not force it. I did not. And my husband, he didn't force it. He didn't make them do it. But it was something that they wanted to do. And they picked scriptures that helped them with their day. Scriptures about being encouraged, scriptures about how to have confidence, whatever. And they have those, and they have them on index cards, and they have them in their rooms so that they can see it every day. So faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the word of God. But also when you can see that word and you can hide it in your heart, and you just might not sin against the Lord. So we don't force religion down their throat. We expose them to it, but we don't force it.
But I think with that too, making sure that we understand that we do set certain boundaries and we have set certain expectations.
Right.
You know, we go to church as a family, so it's not like they necessarily get a choice of staying at home.
Right.
And we're going to church, that sort of thing. But we try to stress to our children that their walk with the Lord is about relationship and not about religious practices or just going to church. It's about a relationship. So it's about them being sincere in wanting and desiring a relationship. And so our kids will come to us. Our kids came to us. When both of our children were born, we had them dedicated. We had them blessed. But our children came to us and said that they wanted to be baptized. So we took them through that process. That was a decision that they made on their own. And so I think those types of things are important because they take a greater sense of ownership in cultivating their own relationship versus just doing what their mom and dad have told them to do.
Right. And do your best to be your own kid's spiritual parents. Don't just be their natural parents, but be their spiritual parents. I just happened to bring my daughter to the Lord. I was the one that led her to the Lord in our bedroom. I think she was 7 at the time, 6 or 7, and she's 11 now. So make an effort to not just be their natural parents, but be their spiritual parents too. Okay? Next on the list is stop letting them, this is number 6, stop letting them spend so much time by themselves. I'll be going in the room like, what y'all doing? What's that? What you looking at? I do random book bag checks. Okay, I do. Let me see that phone. Let me see that's what you're looking at. I want to see what you're doing. And because some of us leave our kids alone too long. It's too long. So if it's 2 hours and you don't know what they doing, where your baby at? I don't know, girl. He's somewhere in that room. No, ma'am. No, sir. You need to know what's going on. You need to know what's going on in your house. You need to know what spirits is flying around, what video, bathrooms too. Amen, somebody. Making sure that you know what's happening. Now, it's not talking about, you being a stalker and you can't even enjoy your evening because you worried about what your kids is doing. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, especially when you get a check in your spirit, like, something ain't right. Something may be playing on their phone. Somebody may have sent them a text message that was inappropriate, or they sent an inappropriate text message. Be aware of what's happening in your home. Be aware of the environment using discernment. That's good. Child of God 78. That's good. Use discernment. Know what's happening in your home. Don't be so caught up in trying to be real extra. Those of you who are married, y'all all booed up and don't know where your kids at. Or single ladies, you on Match.com looking at your next boo and you don't know what. No, you got to be aware of what's happening. Check those book bags. Check those cell phones. Now, yes, they can delete some stuff, but some of them ain't that bright, so they might not delete it, right? Or somebody. You never know. When we check book bags, my kids don't know when I'm gonna check a book bag. I might check it every 3 months. I might check it every month. It just depends. But you'll be surprised what you find in them book bags. You'll be surprised incomplete homework and stuff like that. Wait a minute, what's this? Right? So make sure you don't leave them alone too long, even if they are of a certain age, especially if your kid is 2 years old and you don't know where they're at. That's a problem, ma'am. Sir, that's a problem. But if you have teenagers, especially if you have teenagers, check in with them every now and then. You good? You need anything? And they'll appreciate that. Now, they might be like, dude, why you keep coming to my room? It's really not to police them, but it's to police them because I want to know what's going on in my house.
And one of the things that we have to understand, for those of us, depending on how old we are and that sort of thing, or what age group we were brought up in, most of us were probably brought up in somewhere 70s, 80s time frame, maybe early 90s, whatever the case may be. But it's a different day and time that we're living in now, and our kids are exposed to so much more than we were exposed to. My parents could leave me alone for hours watching cartoons, and I would really be watching cartoons. Like, there was very little opportunity for me to see something inappropriate just watching a cartoon, because Saturdays, was just filled with cartoons. As long as I had my cereal and cartoons, I was straight. But we live in a different day in society now where even some of the stuff that's on regular TV is inappropriate. Yeah. Every time you turn around, even on what's supposed to be Nickelodeon or, children's networks or whatever, you may find some inappropriate stuff or stuff that they don't understand or cannot navigate through properly, there's always some sort of gay or lesbian sort of agenda just kind of being eased in there, just sort of subliminally, almost even on regular TV now. It's not even just cable. Just being aware, access that they have through the internet. My son is an avid. He enjoys history, so he does a lot of research on the internet. But I have to ask him sometimes, hey, what are you looking at? Or sometimes I'll go back and look at the history of some of the YouTube posts that he was watching, because you can be looking for stuff on Bob Marley or Martin Luther King or whatever, and something crazy come up in the feed, and it's like, hey, how did we get on dildos? And I was looking for something on Bob Marley. Like, how did that even pop up? That sort of thing. And so, you have, we have to, as parents, we have to have a greater sense of awareness of what's going on with our children, and stuff like, random checks, asking them what's going on, check up on them with their schoolwork. Most schools nowadays have online grades and that sort of thing. So you'd be surprised when you log in and see what's going on with your child's grades, the type of response you'll get when they know that their parents are checking in on them, or whatever the case may be.
That's good. All right. Number seven, chill on the electronics. Like, really, we really had to get a grip on the electronics, because, I make my money on the phone, on my Facebook, on my whatever. So I really had to learn, and I'm still learning how to balance not having my phone in my hand, or my iPad, or my laptop, or now I'm not a big TV person, but my kids love TV. They love movies. Husband loves TV. So we're, it's easy to be in this electronic society. So do your best to not allow electronics to raise your children, because it's so easy to let electronics raise your children. Some people don't have friends. How do you deal with a father or grandparents that parent your children different? Great question. We'll come back to that. Can you remember that?
Yes.
Okay. So we'll come back to that, Ms. Jazz. So so with the electronics, maybe take a fast day, maybe one day a week, nobody use any phones. Now that's going to be a hard one for me, or at least husband will say, after a certain time, no electronics. I'm trying to have what I call a device-free bedroom. We don't have a TV in our bedroom. So it's just certain things. And the reason why that is because you don't want electronics to raise your kids. And then when your kids start saying stuff, you be like, where you get that from? TV, YouTube, Vine, Instagram. Like, these days you ain't gotta pay for porn anymore. Like, it just pops up in your feed, like already in progress, okay? And so there's nothing you can do. You can't click off of it. They have it so you try to click off of it, and then they say, wait, don't go. And it's like, wait, what? 17
other pop-ups.
Yeah. So it's like the devil, like, no, you gonna see this, right? So it's so difficult. So please don't allow electronics to raise your children, because it will contribute to them being dysfunctional adults. I've even been to church before, and you know how like in church they'll have the screens? The adult, the human being that's talking is standing in front of the church, but people are still looking at the screen. It's ridiculous. It's a society that we're in, that we're a device-driven society where we have to have some form of device in our hands. It's really sad.
And I think it teaches them balance as well, and being able to communicate and do something other than just be on their phones. It's real easy for us to be in our different corners of the house and being on our electronics, but sometimes we have to be intentional about, okay, we're going to have a discussion, or okay, we're going to play a game, or okay, we're going to do some sort of activity together that doesn't involve us using some sort of electronic. And you do have to have balance, because we are a technology-driven society, and so much of what we do is tied up into our devices, our iPads, our phones, our laptops, or whatever the case may be. But it still is about balance, and again, the topic is about helping them to not become dysfunctional adults. And you don't want your children to be folks who cannot have an intelligent conversation or have an appropriate conversation, because there are some people that have become. It's one thing to be naturally introverted just because you're an introvert by nature, but some people are just so into being themselves. I know of people that like had anxiety about being in public because they were so accustomed to their whole life was just around them being online. You could order food, you could do everything. Like you could have minimal contact with people just by being online. And some people, have had to be delivered from, this anxiety of being out in public, being around people and those types of things. And we certainly don't want our children to experience that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The next one is number 8. Please lay off the sugar, folks. Lay off the sugar. Stop buying them dumb Capri Suns and them donuts and those honey buns and all that foolishness. Now, as you can see, we like to eat in the Bell family. Okay? All right? But we don't eat it after a certain time. We don't buy Capri Suns. I do not buy soda. I barely buy like apple juice. Like maybe if we go out, they can have some. But lay off the sugar. Some of us are trying to figure out why he's so bad. He got too much sugar in his system. You gave him a donut for breakfast. He had cereal for lunch. He had what's another sugar? I don't even know what the sugar. A Pop-Tart for a snack. Then he had a cereal bar for lunch. It's too much sugar. So the kids are pumped. And so when we try to detox them and then they're bouncing off the walls or they got an attitude or they're sick, some of our kids really are sick because they have too much sugar in their bodies. So ask those that you love, the grandparents, the in-laws, whoever, say, look, we don't give them sugar after a certain time, or we don't do this. Now, you can't stop them if they do it, but you can at least acknowledge or let them know this is how we do it. And once your kids get of a certain age, you let them know. Say, no, thank you. No, I do not, I don't engage in that. Or don't say I don't engage. I don't eat, that or whatever. Sugar is killing our kids, not just from an obesity standpoint, but from a thought process standpoint. They don't know how to reason. They don't know how to think. They don't know how to have a decent conversation because they're so wired on sugar. They're always jumping up and down, and you're like, yeah, get somewhere and sit down. Well, you gave her a Pop-Tart for dinner. I mean, what is she supposed to do? So monitor their sugar intake. Stop buying that soda. If you're going to buy it, don't let them drink it after a certain time. Don't give them soda with your dinner. Then you're trying to figure out why they didn't go to bed till 11:30 because you gave them sugar. Yeah, those fruit snacks, it's okay during the day because then they have all the rest of the day to run it off. But don't give your kids sugar at the latest 6 o'clock, at the earliest 3 o'clock. Like when they get home from their after school snack, let that be the last of the sugar that they had. Our kids are in middle school, and there's no way you can monitor what your kids are eating at school unless you make their lunches, right? But when they're in middle school, they trying to be cool and hang out with their friends. Like middle school is like literally junior high school. So they're trying to kick it. They're not trying to lunch. No, we're going to buy lunch. Even though it's $75 a day, we still got to buy it so that they can enjoy spending time with their friends, because we don't want them to be dysfunctional, because we want them to be normal kids, right? But lay off the sugar. Stop buying the sugar. Every now and then, that's fine. Maybe once or twice a month or whatever. But like too much sugar is too much. It's too much sugar.
And I think the sugar is an issue. And I think just making healthier choices across the board. One of the things that we've tried to do as a family is to become more educated and making better choices across the board off of stuff that we eat.
Yeah, because we're hungry right now.
Right. And I mean, it's going to go down after the broadcast. It's going to go down. But we're not going to have all the sugar that we would have had or the fried food that we would have had. Right. But we're going to have something. Believe that.
Yeah.
But just making healthier choices. We try to tell our children to watch, eating after a certain time, or
watch your
portion control, making sure that we drink enough water throughout the course of the day. I think we just made a lot of healthier choices. Particularly our children have been running track for a couple of years, and particularly we learned a lot more about making more intelligent choices from their nutrition and how it impacted their performance. We saw a difference in their performance when we did a better job of monitoring what they took in. They got to the point now to where they kind of checked themselves. They were like, I'm kind of good. I had a piece of pizza. Let me chill. I don't want to do too much. That sort of thing. And it's a healthy balance. It's not, our daughter being bulimic or any sort of disorder type of thing. It's all within a healthy balance, but it's something that we as a family have talked about. We've communicated with them. Mm-hmm. We've talked about making healthier choices. We've watched, documentaries on, how certain foods are processed, and they've seen, I forget the name of the documentary where this guy ate McDonald's for like 30 days. That's all he ate, and how sick he was, and they were like, wow. So they still eat McDonald's, but they make different choices. Instead of getting a supersized fry, maybe they'll get apples as their choice or whatever. Instead of getting a soda, they'll get Powerade or whatever the case may be. Supersize me, thank you.
Yeah, that's it. Supersize me.
Those types of things. And so now some of the stuff that we used to see on TV and be like, ooh, I want to try that. Now it's like, dang, that look nasty, look all greasy or whatever. And it's because we're making healthier choices as a family. And so I think along with the sugar and then watching the caffeine, because sodas are like almost like a triple header. They got the sugar, they got the caffeine, they got the sodium, they got all kinds of other chemicals that are going on. And you'd be surprised, just from those of us that are trying to be more weight conscious and that sort of thing, how many empty calories you can intake throughout the course of the day just in sodas. It's real easy. I know kids, I know people. I used to drink a ton of soda throughout the course of the day. It's an easy way to pick up a lot of useless calories, and it goes the same thing for our children as well.
So be careful with the sugar. The teachers will try to say your kids have learning disabilities. Sometimes our kids don't have learning disabilities. Sometimes they're dehydrated and they have too much sugar in their system. So try it for 30 days and see if that works. Okay. Next one.
Tasty.
Yeah, tasty is the devil. They wrong for that. Okay, so number 9, actively engage against generational curses. Actively engage against generational curses. So, for example, I learned early on that my son used to lie. He would lie. And I'd be like, wait a minute. So, I didn't lie. So, I'm going to let you go ahead and handle it.
Yeah, but I used to lie. I used to lie a lot.
Used to. Yeah. He don't lie no more.
Switch words, some of you. I don't lie.
Such were some of you.
Yeah. So, but it was something, because I didn't want to get in trouble. It was what it was. And so it's no mystery where it comes from, because he is a byproduct of me and her. So he gets that from me. But it's important that you talk through issues. We talked about generational curses and those types of things. Talk about issues and challenges you had when you were younger. I've shared some painful experiences with my children, or some poor choices that I've made. And so I think they respect me even that much more as a parent, or they value that which I have to say that much more, because I'm not just telling them something just to be telling them something. I'm telling them to avoid them making similar mistakes that I've made. But sometimes parents can create this facade as if they just live this perfect life, or they forget when they were kids, or forget, that they made poor choices and never talk to their kids. So when their kids do go through a struggle, they feel so isolated. They feel so like they're just the most horrible person in the world. But their dad may have struggled with the same issue, or their mom may have struggled with the same issue, or their grandmother may have struggled with the same issue. And so if they know that, then they have a greater chance of breaking that cycle, versus if we don't talk about it and it just keeps perpetuating. Now your grandkids and their grandkids gonna have the same issue because nobody talks about it. It's not something that's, we're openly denouncing and those types of things. If you was, I'm already talking with my son about having, appropriate relationships with girls, because daddy used to kick it back in the day. I'm having conversations with my daughter. Daddy used to kick it back in the day. So
you're so cute.
I plead the blood.
Oh, Jesus, we're calling on you.
But we're having those types of conversations, and I keep it real with them. I'm like, look, I don't want you to go through some of the challenges that I went through. I don't try to be like a hypocrite and tell them to, or front as if, I never had a challenge in a certain area or whatever the case may be. And so now, particularly with my daughter, she's comfortable having certain conversations with me because I've cultivated that environment where I've shared certain things with her. So now when she has questions, particularly about how young men approach her or whatever the case may be, we can talk about it. Typically, dads are horrified at the thought of their daughters dating or anything like that. I am equally as fearful, but I'm embracing it and taking it head on, and trying to cultivate an environment where my daughter feels comfortable talking to me. I never want her to hide something from me. I never want her to feel, though the girls that hide stuff from their dads and their parents, those are the ones that wild out. Those are the ones that, be all crazy about it. But if we can talk through some things, then we can help guide her through some of those decisions. At the end of the day, she may still make some bad ones, but at least she's equipped with the information. At least both of them will be equipped with the information to make the best choices.
That's good. Yes, I've done the same thing with my son. Yeah, so that's good. So, so as far as even now he talked about the lying thing. I used to do. Well, I still do the attitude thing. I'd be like, whatever, right? And so our daughter, stop it. So our daughter. She could be a little snippy sometimes, and
we counted our strengths where that came from.
So I don't even try to front. I might be kind of sniggling a little bit, like, well, she had a point, but it's still not appropriate. It's still not right. She's still a child. She still has some things that she still needs to be checked in. And so my mama got an attitude. My grandma had an attitude. All the women in my family had an attitude, and it's just not cute. Right? So if we want them to not be dysfunctional, I don't want my daughter to grow up and, she mean mugging men and they can't even have a conversation with her because they don't know what kind of attitude she's, whatever. We don't want that. So when we notice certain things, we nip it in the bud. We deal with it, not just in prayer, but we'll be like, wait a minute. Or when our son Trey was maybe about 3 or 4, he would like hold his hand kind of like weird or whatever. And I was like, nah, son, fix your hand. Well, he didn't realize that he was doing that. He was just a baby, right? So sometimes it's just those little things that we just kind of think, oh, that's cute, or he'll grow out of it, or she'll grow out of it. No, you have to make sure that you check those generational curses in, not just in the spirit realm, but also when you see them manifest in the natural. Okay? And our number 10, and I'll go back through all of them again. Our number 10 is have kid dates. Go on dates with your kids. My son and I, we have haircut time. Like, so I take my daughter to the barbershop. I take my daughter to the the nails, what's the place, the beauty salon? You see, I ain't been in years, okay? And so my son and I, we go to the barbershop together. Well, baby, he don't have no hair, so he don't need to go to the barbershop. So me and my son, we go to the barbershop together. And we have conversations on our way there, on our way back. We have conversations when we're there, because the barbershop can kind of be a man's domain, but these days there are women cutting hair and things of that nature. So things have kind of changed a lot. But my son and I, that's the time we spend together. My husband is excellent with my daughter. He is so good with her, and as far as engaging her and loving on her and hugging her, he's never inappropriate with her. Never, there's a boundary that's there. Even though that's her dad, he's very, very good with her. He's sensitive to her feelings. Sometimes I be a little jealous because he'd be like understanding her.
She's a hater.
Yeah, I am a hater for real. But he's so good with her, and she's so comfortable with him. I was very, very comfortable with my father. Very, very comfortable. I am a certified daddy's girl, so I get it. And so I'm thankful that I love to see him embrace her. I love how she, can lay in his arms and love on him and things of that nature. And so for those who maybe if you are single and your daughter, maybe she doesn't have a connection with her father, it's okay. Ask God, send my daughter a man that ain't trying to mess with her, but that has a father's heart towards her. And God will send somebody that will love on your daughter, that will love on your son, and it doesn't have to be anybody you're interested in. It could just be a brother or an uncle or one of the gentlemen at the church, like a dad, a father figure. Ask God, show us who's good for my family. But go on kid dates, schedule time. He's good with her. He'll take her to get her nails done. They'll go to lunch. They'll go to dinner. My son and I, we might, he loves going to the video game, go to GameStop or whatever. So we'll do something like that. Or maybe we'll just have dinner by ourselves in the house. Or my husband and my daughter, they love watching TV, so they watch a lot of TV together. So it's just different things like that. Find out, where can I take you on a date? And they might be like, What are you talking about? Take your kids on a date because it makes them feel important. Some of us go on dates with these random men or these random women, but we don't even know what kind of pizza our kids like, or we don't even know what kind of, they change. So just what they liked when they were 3 or 4, if they're 13 and 14, they changed. So you have to find out, stay engaged with them, find out what they like. Now, we're not perfect parents and we're not trying to act like we are, but what we can tell you is what we've learned and the good stuff that our parents did teach us. My parents were very engaged in my life. I was very blessed to have both my parents in the home. Was my home perfect? No. Did it have its own level of dysfunction? Absolutely. However, my parents, they taught me to be a go-getter. My daddy was like, have your own money. I was working since I was 15 years old. So my father was never one of those men, you need to get you somebody rich, no. Now I didn't have to learn how to change a tire, but he did have a good AAA membership. Amen. So, so even with my husband, he knows how to cook, clean. He does I do most of the cooking now, but he does. Really? That's what we're doing?
I'm saying if we're going to average it out over the relationship, I mean, in the most recent time frame, yes, you've done most of the cooking. But
anyway,
I think if you look at the 16-year history of the marriage, I've done the proportion.
Okay, he does most of the cooking because he wants to. Now, can I cook macaroni and cheese and black eyed peas and all greens and cornbread? Yes. But I don't cook that stuff all the time. I cook it for special occasions. Now, on an everyday basis, I do cook, but he does most of the cooking because he loves it. His mother taught him how to cook. His mama taught him how to do laundry. His mama taught him how to do a lot of different things that most men don't know how to do. So, ladies, don't just teach your daughters how to cook. Teach your sons how to cook too. Don't just teach your daughters how to do all the cleaning. Teach the son how to. Yes. My daughter can take out a bag of trash every now and then as well.
And my son can stack the load the dishwasher.
Absolutely.
And do laundry.
So don't make it. Yeah. So don't make it a thing where Elam King cooks every night in his house.
What up, King?
So don't just teach your kid, do some cross training, on your kid dates. Talk about, what kind of chores do you prefer? Find out what your children's preferences are. Okay, I don't do trash either, boo. Okay, but I get it. If I have to, I will, right? And if my daughter had to, she will. But I get it. I don't do trash. But take your kids on dates. So, did you want to answer that before I recap?
And balance it out. I do spend time with my daughter, but I also try to spend time with my son and having individual time. You do a lot of time things with Trey intentionally, but you also are very intentional about spending time with Adriana as well. So balance it out. So and then let them see different aspects of each other. Let them see just some time. Sometimes Trey just wants some time just with his dad, or just with his mom, or Adriana wants time just with them, or engage with some of their friends. Sometimes it's just Adriana and her friend, or Trey and some of his friends, and that sort of thing, so that you're involved with them. Our kids, they're much, particularly my son. He's much like me in that he's had the same friends since how long have they been? Like birth, yeah. But even though we moved away, lived in different states or whatever, those are his little partners or whatever, because I'm like that. So they, I still hang with the same core group of guys that I hung with when I was 12, I have other people that I associate with or whatever, but my ride or die partners, if you will, are the same cats that, I hung with when I was in middle school. And so our kids, they make decisions and they learn how to process and reason by observing us and by being around us and seeing how we interact. And so if we're just too busy, yes, husbands, we do work. Wives, we work. We're busy. We're doing different things, but we have to make time to invest in our children. Do something that's of interest to them so that you understand how they think, what they're going through. Our children are facing some incredible challenges, things we did not have to face or didn't have to face at this stage in the game. It's just crazy, some of the things that, the conversations my children and I have about some of the things that they encounter. I mean, they're in middle school now, so it's pretty much open season now that they're in middle school.
It's crazy.
But, even when they're in elementary school, some of the things that they were encountering, girls step into my daughter and boys step into my son in elementary school and that sort of thing. I didn't deal with that sort of stuff until I was much older, almost in my adult age. So our children are facing a whole lot more, and so we've got to be engaged with them. You know, it's not just enough fathers to just be in the house financially, making sure that bills are paid, but we also have to provide our time and our attention, our care, our concern. You know, my daughter comes to me, both of our children do, you know, and asking me for assistance with their homework and those types of things. Like, take an active role in being engaged with your children. Don't just be there. Don't just, you know, make sure they got something to eat, that they got some clothes on their backs, but be actively engaged.
That's good. That's good. Did we answer, Jasmine, did we answer your question about, if you're still on, did we answer your question about how you would deal with other outside, like grandparents? Did we answer you? I don't think we did, but did you want to tackle that?
So the question was, how do you deal with when they have a different father?
No, the question was, what do you do when
like
you're trying
when
you're trying to enforce something, but the grandparents is like, I don't care what your mama say, I'm gonna give you this donut, and you're like, ma'am, that's why you're 400 pounds now. Stop it.
In those instances, you have to have those tough conversations. My parents, they love spoiling their grandchildren, but we had to have some not hard conversations, but just some real conversations about, you know, hey, these are some of the things that we allow them to do. These are some of the things that we don't allow them to do. You know, when they went to spend time with them, and one of the things that was important to us was that, you know, we knew they were going to hang out and eat some of the stuff that their Mimi prepared for them, but we wanted them to stay on somewhat of a regular schedule. And so, you know, as hard as it was for my mother, she made those adjustments. It may not have always been comfortable, but now when they go to the house, it's almost like a regular part of their process. You know, she'll use ground turkey versus beef, or whatever the case may be, or she'll prepare snacks for them that are healthier, still just as tasty, or whatever. So I think you just have to have those conversations. And I mean, if it's stuff that's putting them in certain harms, or they're just blatantly disrespecting certain boundaries, then you may have to step in and say, you know, I'm going to have to put, you know, some balances and some checks in place. You can't replace them being your children's grandparents or their parent, but you can put certain boundaries in place to make sure that it doesn't get out of hand.
Very good. So just to recap, the 10 things that, before I give you the recap, one thing I want to remind you guys of is, don't deal with your kids with hands of duty, but with hands of compassion. Don't just be like, oh, I got to get these kids some food. Oh, I got to wash these clothes. Oh, I got to do that. Because they're going to remember that. And then they do that to their kids. And then you're like, where do you get that from? They got it from you, mama. So 10 ways to keep your children from becoming dysfunctional adults. Keep in mind that you don't want to just deal with them because they're your kids and you're just like, well, I'm stuck with y'all. You don't want to make your kids feel like they're stuck with you. Also, the truth is, your kids, some of us, our kids really don't respect us because they won't obey you because they don't respect you. And so it's very important that my children respect me. It's very important that my children respect the fact that I'm not only their mother, I'm not only their dad's wife, I am also to be respected. Even though my husband is the primary, he's the enforcer. Well, he's the regulator and I enforce. So he'll say, this is what the rule is, you know, and then I enforce it. And when I come to him with something, he usually backs me up. Don't allow your kids to double team you. Don't allow your kids to play games with each other, to play games against you. We don't let our kids, you know, if mama said no, it's no. If daddy said no, it's no. Don't be trying to talk about what daddy said. I heard him when he said no, and it's still no.
And don't play games through your kids.
Yeah, don't play games with your kids. Don't be like, go tell your daddy. No, ma'am. You get up and tell your husband. And so, yeah, so if your kids respect you more than your husband, that's definitely a problem, because I've had to relinquish a lot of control over to my husband because it's important to me that they respect him, because I won't have respect for him if my kids don't. So I can't respect him. I can't expect my kids to respect him if I don't respect him, right? So if they, like, especially with my daughter, I told you guys earlier that she got a little smart mouth. So I'll be like, okay, I don't like the way you said that. You need to restate that. And she'll be like, oh, I'm sorry, Dad. What I meant was. Or my son will, he's a little different though. He just be trying to keep from getting knocked out. Like, you know, he be trying to keep from getting hurt. You know, he said something slick, and so, you know, he stay far away from my husband when he's in trouble. But my point is, you know, check that in. Don't let your children play each other against each other. Don't allow your kids to argue with each other. Don't allow them. This wasn't one of the 10, but if you have more than one kid, don't let them fight. We let them know you are all that you have. It's just the 2 of them. So don't be doing all that foolish fighting. Y'all fighting about dumb stuff. Who watching the TV? Who doing? Stop it. Stop fighting. Stop fighting, because what's going to happen is when I'm an adult or when I'm old and I'm expecting y'all to take care of me or taking care of my husband, and y'all too busy taking care of your dad, and y'all are fighting over something stupid. So if they're fighting as kids, they'll fight as adults. So don't let your kids fight as children. Help them work that out. Help them to learn how to have a discussion. Help them to learn how to have proper problem-solving skills. So, you was going to say something?
Yes. Also, help them, make them work their own issues out. Sometimes we as parents want to jump in. What y'all talking about? Why y'all fighting? Sometimes you be like, you know what? I don't want to hear anything. Y'all need to work it out. Figure it out. Make it happen. We have certain expectations of our children. And so we force them to work together as a team. Mm-hmm. We don't, we hold them accountable as a team. We, if the room, if the space that they share is jacked up, we're not going to ask, okay, so who's the last one that was in such and such a room? Who's the last one? It's about, no, the room is jacked up. So if my son needs to remind my daughter to do something, or my daughter needs to remind my son, they have to work that out. It was a little different for me. I have a half brother, so we don't call each other half brothers, but we have different moms, and so we didn't grow up in the same household.
He's an only child.
So for the
I love how you tried to play that.
I'm not playing it. I'm just being real. If you would let me finish. What I was going to say is, for lack of a better argument, I grew up as an only child. So there was no question who broke something. Donnie broke it. If something was broke, there was no mystery. I didn't have to work together as a team with my siblings necessarily, other than when my brother was visiting and that sort of thing. So that's a little bit different in our environment, whereas my wife, she grew up in a household with a sibling that was close in age, and then she had older siblings as well. And so they learned that cohesiveness. They learned how to work through some of their issues a little bit better. Whereas for me, that was a little bit more of a stretch for me. I learned my teamwork and sort of things when I started playing sports, going to school, at church activities, those types of things. But it was something that wasn't necessarily developed in the household because I kind of grew up by myself to a certain degree. So, we make our children talk certain stuff out. We don't let them go around harboring issues. My daughter got an attitude with my son because of something, or my son got an issue with my daughter. And we check stuff in. We're like, sometimes my daughter, she likes quality time, but she wants stuff her way. So she'll want to just watch what she wants to watch, and she wanted everybody to watch just what she wants to watch. But then when my son may want to watch something or whatever, then she doesn't take, yes, we'll talk to that about that. But then she wouldn't take the time to be just as engaged or just as interested in some of his activities and that sort of thing. So we've taught them to kind of balance it out and work together.
So let's recap for those that just joined us. Please add this or share this with your followers. It is being recorded on catch.me, so you will be able. Catch is KATCH.me. So if you're just joining, you can go back and revisit it on catch.me. So for the recap, 10 ways to keep your children from being dysfunctional adults. Number 1, know your kids' love language. Know your kids' apology language. Love language and apology language. Go to 5lovelanguages.com. Okay? Number 2, you must have family meetings. Number 3, don't be crazy with your kids. Don't be cussing your kids out. Cursing is a form of perversion. Whether you look at it like that or not, your mouth is not to be used to cursing your kids out, or anybody for that matter, but especially your babies. Like, no, stop it. Then don't let the teacher cuss your kids out. I know you didn't call my baby out her name. Well, baby, you cussed her out before she left today. So anyway, number 4, don't tell your kids to just do as I say and not as I do. So in other words, be the example. Be an example for your kids. Don't be what you don't want them to be. Don't act like you wouldn't want them to act. Number 5, let them be themselves. Don't force religion down their throats. Now, I'm not telling you be themselves like your son want to wear a dress and lipstick and nails. I'm not talking about that. But forcing religion, God, anything like that down their throats. If you hide the word in there, if you expose them to the word of God, you expose them to the love of God, then they might not stray away from it, because the Bible says if you train up a child in the way they should go, when they are old, they might not depart. Now they may stray away from a little bit, but they'll come back. But don't force it. Okay. Number 6, stop letting them spend so much time alone. Go in that room. Open that door. Y'all look at that. Let me see that phone. Let me look at that tablet. What we doing? Go through that history. Okay. See what they looking at. Number 7, chill on the electronics. Like one day, one afternoon, no electronics, no phones, no laptops, no Facebook, nothing. And just talk. Some of us don't even know how to have a conversation with our kids. Okay. Number 8, make chill out on the sugar. Like, it's really a food. Really number 7 is really about eating together, watching what you eat, exercising, taking care of yourself. But the main point we're driving home is chill out on that sugar, because our children they have too much sugar in their system and they're dehydrated. They're not drinking enough water. Sugar will kill you. Sugar will make you get D's in all your classes. Okay, so chill out on the sugar. Number 9, actively engage against generational curses. Actively engage against generational curses. So not just in prayer, but when it manifests, when your daughter's, rolling her neck and rolling her eyes or whatever, don't be just trying to knock them between the wash and dry, but have a conversation and be like, boo, all that attitude and the extraness you doing, we don't need that right now. What's the problem? Like, get to the bottom of it. If your son is a liar or your daughter is a liar and it's in their DNA, don't get mad. Deal with it. Check it in, and then don't you be lying. If you know you have a generational issue, don't make sure it stops with you. So when you're in prayer, the angels and Holy Spirit is having your back. But when that thing is manifesting, you gotta deal with it in the moment. Number 10, have kid dates. Take your kids on dates. If you have more than one kid, take them on dates. Don't just, pile them all in the car together and be like, we're going to have a good time. No, sometimes you got to separate the kids. Single moms, maybe drop one of the kids off at a friend's house or something while you take one of the kids out, or maybe pick them up from school early, or go to their school and have lunch with them. Whatever you have to do to let them know that you enjoy loving on them and being their parent. One of the things, and like I said earlier, deal with your kids with hands of compassion and not hands of duty. You also want to make sure that you understand that you don't know everything about your kids. We don't know everything about our kids. They are right in the house with us, but we don't know everything. The enemy will try to torment them in their sleep. They have bad dreams. And speaking of bad dreams, there's somebody that's watching whose child is having bad dreams. Be careful what you allow to play in your house. Be careful what movies you have in your house, what movies you allow on your phones. Those horror movies, y'all think it's cute. It's not cute. And then you're wondering why your kid can't sleep in their own beds. All of that stuff makes a difference. My daughter, she has prophetic dreams. Now, we don't walk around talking about she a prophet and all that stuff. But before Sandy Hook, remember the Sandy Hook shooting? She saw that the night before it happened. We didn't just send her back to bed and be like, go back to bed, girl, ain't nothing wrong with you. No, we listened to her and we prayed right there after she was, 6 at the time? Yeah, she was like 6 at the time. So we prayed right then at that moment. So don't ignore your kids' dreams. When they tell you, Mommy, I had a bad dream, listen to them. Or if they can't say it, let them write it. Let them act it out in their dolls or whatever so that they can really express themselves, especially when your babies are young and they don't know how to interpret what's going on. And then if you don't understand, call somebody and say, look, my baby had this dream. Some of us, our kids have dreams and we ignore them. Stop ignoring your kids. You be like, Lord, send me a sign. Well, your baby had a dream last week and you told her to go back to bed. So the Lord might be giving you a sign through the kid. Okay? Somebody asked a question.
Before we get to the question,
okay.
I had one that we didn't have necessarily on the list, but I think it's vitally important. I grew up in a household where the finances and bills and those types of things were never discussed in front of me. So I just didn't really have an understanding of how money worked, how money operated. I just knew some kind of way magically when I came in the house, the lights were on and that sort of thing. So it wasn't something that was really, really discussed. Talk to your kids about finances so that they have an understanding of how money works, how to utilize it, how to be responsible with it. Our children have a greater appreciation for their things and the things that they have because they have an understanding of how hard mom and dad have to work to provide those things. They're much more, our children are very, very appreciative of the things that we provide, and it does not take a lot to make them happy.
Right.
But have conversations about finance. Give them money and help them manage their money. Those types of things for special occasions or rewarding them for good performance in school and those types of things, and let them spend their money. And you'd be surprised on how their decision making changes when it's them spending their own money versus spending your money. They're a little bit more selective. They're a little bit more cautious when they're spending their own money versus when they're spending your money. So have those types of conversations. Talk to your children about credit. Understanding and managing your credit and the importance of managing your credit effectively. Talk to your children about investing in home ownership versus renting. We don't want to be the generation where we rent for 50, 60 years and then there's just another generation of renters. No, we want to have wealth that gets passed down and real estate and properties and those types of things. But a lot of that comes through certain levels of education about how money works. Home ownership, and in many instances, you can own a home for less than you're paying for in rent. But it's about managing money appropriately, keeping your credit in line, and those types of things. But those types of conversations have to be had with our children, and not, sometimes we are embarrassed about what we're so caught up in trying to provide $300 and $400 Jordans, and because we can't, or in my case, we just won't. We just don't want to have those difficult conversations with our children. And sometimes it's just like, sweetie, we're not going to do it because this week we've already expended X number of dollars. So no, we're not going to do Redbox tonight. We're not going to eat out tonight. We're going to eat what's in the house tonight, and those types of things. Versus just never having those conversations, so your children don't understand the whys behind some of the decision making that goes on in the house. So please discuss finances. And so I think someone had a question about adopting or being a foster parent. And I first of all, shout out to all the parents who adopt and those who are foster parents. Some of our dear friends prayed, and they've gotten some wonderful children, and it's amazing how God has given them children that they could not have birthed, more children that act more like them or that are more closely related to them. But it does take a special grace. It does take a special level of understanding, because we know the genetic makeup of our children. We know, my daughter will get certain actions or idiosyncrasies or whatever from my wife or from me, or my son gets certain things from me or from my wife or whatever. We know the makeup. We know the family history of what's in her DNA, what's in my DNA. But when you adopt, you're only privy to certain information. You don't get a full scope of the picture because you weren't a part of that process. And so it really does take a special grace and a special anointing from God to be able to navigate through all of those challenges. And it can be very, very difficult. And so my heart goes out to those who take on that tremendous challenge, because it is such a dire need in our society, particularly in African American community. We've got so many children that need good homes, and it's unfortunate that more folks don't make the decision to adopt, but yet we'll have issues when folks outside of our race do adopt our babies and that sort of thing. So it does require a special grace to manage those situations effectively, particularly those who foster parent and may only have the child in the home for an extended period of time, making sure that you set those boundaries. And I know of situations where they've had foster kids in the same house with biological children, and so making sure that they feel a part of everything that's going on and don't feel ostracized. They feel ostracized enough coming into the situation, but they don't feel that additionally because they're being treated a certain way and that sort of thing.
And so basically, don't make a difference just because they're adopted. Whatever you put in place, it's the rule of the house. I don't care if the mailman stays with us. That's the rule, right? So it doesn't, don't change your thought process because the kid is adopted. It's still the rule of the house, and also somebody asked a question about, what do you do when, what was the question about, not foster kids, but it was about, when the child is upset because they can't have, there's no money to do extra stuff. That's the thing about, like husband said, talking to them about money. Mama got $5 for 2 weeks, okay? So please understand, I want to get this for you. So what we do is we give our kids a date. We'll be like, okay, on this date, we're going to do this. And when they can see it and they can see it on the calendar, they'll appreciate that a little bit more because we've given them some hope. So some parents be like, we'll see, no, or you don't deserve that or whatever, kind of deflecting from the fact that mama, just say you don't got no money. Like, just say you don't got no money. And that's okay, right? So, don't feel guilty because they're upset. Just be like, baby, I'm sorry you're upset, but, this is all mommy has for the next 20 days or 2 weeks. This is all daddy has for the next 2 weeks. So, but what I can promise you is on this day, I'm going to hook you up. On this day, we'll go and get pizza. And this day, add a bonus to it, right? But just don't deflect or try to make them feel bad. Well, you didn't say that when I had did that. Like, don't make them feel bad because you ain't got no money till payday.
And not just that, but not feeling bad about it or not being guilty about it. But sometimes you have to check that thing in. It's
That's
like,
right.
I may have it, but that doesn't mean just because I can buy pizza on the way home, tonight we're not eating pizza.
That's right. Period.
That's just it. That's just how it's going down. So you being upset about it is not swaying the situation. In fact, if it continues, not only will you not get pizza, but it could be a very, very uncomfortable evening for you. So some stuff you just kind of have to check in, because we as parents get guilted into so many poor emotional decisions, particularly when it comes to finance. Around the holidays, we go into debt trying to buy, we done financed all these hoverboards and all this kind of stuff that we got, through the holidays that's probably broke now before Valentine's Day. And we put a lot of undue pressure on ourselves. Yeah. At the end of the day, my kids, we have a conversation about, this is what, I go to work so that this is a need versus this is a want. You want a different pair of Jordans, but you have shoes. So don't get it twisted. Like, I don't have to get this for you. And now I'm going to reward you because you've been good or you've been doing well or whatever. But don't get it twisted. Mommy and daddy don't have to do that for you.
That's right.
It's a choice that we make. And sometimes we don't have that conversation with our children. And so we get upset when they make us feel unappreciated, but we haven't checked it in. So they do think we're just an endless ATM where it's just like, okay, I want some more money. Okay, I want some more money. And they just go punch a button and get some more money out. No, sometimes you need to check it in. It's like, no, boo-boo, remember them? Remember when you had to go to the ER and we had to get a cast for your arm or whatever?
Right.
So we can't get a PlayStation game right now because we had to spend $300 at the ER.
Okay, get
so
your life.
we needed to get braces or whatever you needed for your teeth or whatever. We needed to make all of that stuff happen. So now we can't do such and such, or help them remember, you know, the track that you do and football and all the stuff that you do.
Right. That's where your movie money is.
That's, you know, mommy and daddy, we're not going to the movies because we had to go to San Antonio for your game. Right. That was a hotel, and I'm getting all of my feelings.
I need
I'm
you to
getting
calm
a little
down.
tight.
It's all right. It's all right.
I'm getting a little tight.
Okay, you done.
I'm sorry. We coming back in the track season. It's too expensive. It's too expensive.
Wait, but stop rewarding them for bad grades. If your kids got C's and D's and F's, they better not have no Jordans on.
Yes, I breathe.
Don't let them have no Jordans on and they walking around with C's and D's. You need your behind whooped if you buying Jordans and you spending money on getting their hair done, knowing that they have bad grades. Now, let's just be real. Some of us get this stuff for our kids because we have some idiosyncrasy that we're trying to make up for. Some of us, we want to get these dumb Jordans and these dumb outfits and getting these girls' hair done and spending $500 on these MK bags. How you got an MK bag with no MK job? Okay? Like, I don't get that. So some of us are trying to live vicariously through our children and be like, well, my mama couldn't afford this, I'm going to get this for my baby. You got 14 jobs because you're trying to get your baby's hair done every week. Stop it. Stop it. You are, okay, 18-inch weave.
Corey,
do you know how much,
Parker.
Hey, Corey, you know how much a closure is right now? Do you know how much a weave is? Okay? Stop
the good
it.
Bundles.
Come on, bundles. Come on, bundles. Get your life.
Wow.
So if your kids got C's and D's, I have a problem with a C and a D, and you wearing Jordans. Stop it. If they don't deserve it, I'm getting hyped.
It's a little chill.
Okay,
it's on the calm down. Relate, breathe. It's on the chill.
Look, he was getting hype about the track.
You can have a dream about Jordan tonight.
You know what I'm saying? I just don't like that. I don't like it when parents spend all this money on their kids and your kids is on the D list, not the dean's list, but the D list. Stop it.
But it's also about parents making sure that you have your motives and different things in check, because sometimes we want to try to keep up with the Joneses.
Yeah.
And, you know, we want to keep up with a certain status or whatever about what we can provide for our kids. So, you know, we feel a certain way if our kids got the latest J's or the latest LeBrons or the whatevers, you know, that makes us feel a certain way. No, I feel pretty good. With these
don't get a D.
Right.
Okay.
Pretty much.
All right.
Now there is a difference. You do get what you pay for, and my son, particularly my son, well, both of them, you know, we do spend money on getting them quality shoes, and they get, you know, some.
They get Jordan. He got Jordans
like
now.
Right. So I don't want to make the impression like we just never get them stuff, but we just don't get caught up in it. We don't get caught up in it to where, you know, we feel bad or they gotta have the latest pair. No, they got some Jordans, but they got like the retro ones. Like,
I know that's right.
Like the old ones. They don't get like the new 2016 joints. They got like the 93 joints.
Yeah,
like the old joints.
Yeah.
So but yeah, you know, make sure that our motives are in check. You know, a lot of times we buy our kids stuff or we try to make money a replacement for our presence, you know, particularly with single parent type issues and single parent situations where perhaps a dad, he only has the kids on the weekends or the mom only has the kids on the weekends. Then we try to spend money to compensate for our time.
Yeah.
And so that makes our kids be very materialistic and not really have a grip on life because we're trying to overcompensate from our absence, but they have to understand. My dad worked a lot, so he wasn't able to always go with me to my football practices and those types of things. But I don't know how I connected the dot, but I connected the dot with the only way I get to play football is if my dad goes to work. So I didn't feel a certain way, so he didn't feel some sort of pressure to overcompensate when he was around, when he was able to take me to something. He didn't feel some sort of pressure from me or whatever to have to do something for me or to have to buy me something because he worked a lot or whatever the case may be. But some of us, because we feel guilty because we, on the road a lot, we travel for business, or perhaps we don't have our kids full time or whatever, but when we have them, then we just want to load them up with all this stuff and spend a lot of money on them when it's not necessarily, that may not necessarily what they need at that particular time.
That's good. That's good. So I believe that's everything. Please share this with your followers. We will, like I said, you can catch it on catch.me. Let your kid learn one scripture, Ephesians 6:1. Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Okay, if you don't have to force it down them, but I think it's something that we really have to understand. We have to understand that parenthood is a ministry. Just because you had them kids and you're like, I can't wait till you're 18, right? But you better watch how you treat those babies, especially if you're trying to be somebody's wife. If you're single and you're trying to get married, God is watching how you treat the babies, because he's like, nah, I'm not about to bring no man in this situation, and you treating your oldest son like he your child's father, he the daddy, or you treating your oldest daughter like she's the assigned babysitter in the house. That's ridiculous. Stop it. You got to get your house in order. Yes, we are married. Yes, we are partners. But even as a single mom, even as a single father, you have authority in your home. And God will give you what you need in order to raise and train your children. Just because I know people that come from a two-parent home and they just as jacked up as somebody that didn't. So don't let having a single-parent home or coming from a single-parent home be a clause for dysfunction. That's not a clause for dysfunction. I know some wonderful people that came from single-family homes, and they ain't never been to jail, ain't never did drugs, still virgins, they ain't crazy, they ain't nothing. They're just... So just because you come from a two-parent home don't make you better than other people. Just because you and your spouse are married today, amen, does not mean that you're better than the single parent. I know, I'm doing a lot. I'm doing a lot.
That's why your daughter do that.
Yeah, she do. But anyway, I just get so passionate about it. So anyway, we love you guys. We want everybody to be a great parent. Somebody actually did ask a question on Facebook. How do you... I posted, your kids don't obey you because they don't respect you. Get your respect back. So how you get your respect back is, number one, is apologize to your kids and say, look, mama jacked it up. I've been cussing you out. I've been being inconsistent. I've been wanting you to love God and I don't. I've been doing this and I haven't been doing it. I didn't even finish high school and I'm mad at you because you didn't go to school. Level the playing field. Let your children know that you are humble. Just because you're a parent does not mean you cannot humble yourself. Humble yourself and let your kids know. That's how you get your respect back. Even as an adult, if you have adult children, you can get your respect back by apologizing and saying, I'm sorry. And please don't say, I did the best I could. That is such a punk way out. That is such a coward way of deflecting from what the real issue is. You probably did do the best you could, but you still jacked me up. So I need you to own what you did so we can move forward. Stop making excuses and move forward. So if you want to gain your children's respect, start with an apology and then ask them, what can I do to be a better parent? How can I be a better mom? What I asked my children was, I asked my son, how can I be a better mom? He said, Mom, I need you to take better care of yourself. He was like, I need you to get off that computer. I need you to stop trying to help everybody. And I need you to do you. And I really appreciated that. I thought he was going to say I did something to him. But he said, no, I need you to take care of you. My daughter, Adrienne, said, I don't remember what she said. It was probably something like, we need to go shopping or something. Like, wow. She always want to go shopping. But, it is what it is. She loves spending her daddy's money. So, but he started it. But anyway, so you want to level the playing field. You want to get the respect back. Start with an apology and just build from there. Stop rehearsing the past. You know what? It was what it was. Let's move forward. Let's create new memories. Let's build new strategies. Let's build a new normal in our home. Let's show the purpose of family is to show God's the way God looks at family. He loves Jesus as his son, our brother. So God values family. And if God had a wife, her name would be Wisdom. Okay, so if you want to know how to be a wife, gain wisdom. If you want to know how to be a good mom or a good father, gain wisdom. So engage with your children, love on them, be honest with them. You know, I'm not saying be honest now. Let's talk on the be honest. Don't be like, you know, I'm going on a date with, and he kissed me. Like, stop that. Like, don't get all deep in your, you know, relationship and who you broke up with, and you know you got a man or a woman every other weekend. When you get your kids on the weekend, Keisha with you this weekend, next week Shantae with you next week. Stop it. Like, let that be your time with your children, and don't leave your children with the person you dating for the weekend. Stop it. Okay? I needed to say that. I know. All right. Parenting. Share this with somebody. Again, we're not experts, but we're telling you what works for us. We're telling you what we believe that the Lord wants to share with you. We believe that these are biblical principles about how to be godly parents and to raise adults that are law-abiding. Oh, talk about how you tell our son about the police, how with him being a black male and how he engages with the police.
Yes. We've had a conversation with my son about respecting authority and understanding that, you know, there's a time and a place to address certain things. If you get pulled over, that's not the time to, you know, particularly because we're African Americans, talk about, I know my rights and this, that, you can't do such and such. Boys are getting shot. Boys are getting tossed in jail and beat up because they're not respecting authority. My grandfather told me a long time ago that every police officer has the same first and last name, yes and sir. And if there's an issue, tell me about it, and we'll deal with it when you get home. But the issue is come home. You know, come home. Be respectful. Do comply with what they're asking you to do, but then come home. But so we need to teach our children to respect authority. You know, we're in this day and age where children can question authority and that sort of thing. And, you know, we really need to kind of check that in, because a lot of what is happening in the breakdown in society to a certain degree is that children just don't respect authority because sometimes the parents have clowned so bad to where they empower their children to be like, you know, don't you, you know, you ain't got to do what the teachers say. No, yes, you do. Yes, you do. Now, if the teacher's being disrespectful and inappropriate, you come talk to me and I'll go up and me and us and the principal will deal with it. But we're empowering our children to, you know, to have these conversations or whatever. And, you know, it's unfortunate some of the tragedies that we've had in recent times and ages with the Black Lives Matter movement and all of that. And trust me, my heart goes out and I empathize with those mothers who've lost sons. But some of it is just a breakdown. What would have happened if they would have, perhaps some of those young men would have complied and stopped what they were doing? Yeah. Doesn't make it right. Please understand. I'm not saying that it justifies any of the senseless slayings that have occurred. But we also have to take accountability for, you know, having a certain level of respect for authority. You know, what you're doing, you know, we want to get caught up in arguing the point versus the fact. Yeah. You know, if I get pulled over for doing 85 in a residential zone and the cop calls me the N-word, you know, I can't get so bent up on the fact that he called me the N-word. Dude, you was doing 85 in a residential zone. You was breaking the law. That's right. So let's have that. That's all we're talking about. What he called you and all that stuff. That's a conversation for another day. But right now, you're getting pulled over because you were doing 85. That's right. If you weren't doing 85, perhaps you wouldn't have gotten pulled over. Or called the N-word. But we want to put so much emphasis and call Al Sharpton and everybody else because he called me the N-word. But nobody talks about. But he was doing 85 in a residential. Right. Okay. And he could have killed somebody. Crazy. Or she could have killed somebody. Yeah. Some ends would have called him the N-word. So right. It is right. So the question was, what do you do when your children have basically caught you having sex? Ouch. Okay. First of all, we
great 16-year streak. So, amen, Lord Jesus, don't play. We have a great 16-year-old streak.
So they're with their husband and wife.
Yeah, husband and
boyfriend.
wife.
Oh, okay.
If you sleeping, if your kid caught you having sex with a man and that's not your husband, you should have got caught. Amen. Now, if you are married and you're having sex and you got caught and your kid saw you.
Scarred.
I'm so sorry. Can you tell the story? Because that happened to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let me just say this. If I caught my parents doing that, y'all wouldn't know me. Okay?
Yeah.
Like, there would be no Periscope with AdrienneEBell because I would be somewhere in Europe somewhere. That's ridiculous. No.
Now, I have to take ownership. My parents have requested that anytime I come to the door that I knock before I come in. Well, I came inside one day rushing home out of playing outside, and I just walked in and I saw something that no young man should have ever seen in life. And so after I passed out and came back to, my father came and we had a conversation. We had already had like the birds and the bees conversation, so it wasn't like I was like, so what was that about? I knew what was going down. I just didn't want to see it going down on my mother. So we had a very, very uncomfortable conversation. And so, and I tell our kids, that's why I tell them to knock before they come in. I say, because you're going to see something one day that you aren't going to want to see.
You're going to see it.
And so my kids, they really do try to respect it because they're like, and we're openly affectionate in front of, not like, straight get busy in front of them, but they see us flirt or kiss or see me touch on a butt or whatever, that sort of thing. So they're like, oh God, parent, of course, your kids kissing, you're just disgusting to your kids or whatever. And so our kids, they definitely don't want to see any more than they possibly see mom and dad kissing or holding hands. So, but if it's happened, be
like, what you see? Tell mommy what you saw.
Let's talk about it. Let's not try to walk around like
hide it.
Like it didn't happen. It was what it was. I told you to knock, didn't you? Yeah. Okay. Well, you want to, how you got here? You and your sister.
That's how y'all got here.
That's how y'all got here.
Right.
That's how y'all got here.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
She's only 11.
Yeah, so just have the conversation and just tell her.
She'll have to talk.
When you get
Trust
married.
me, at 11, she probably knows more than we think she does.
Yeah. So our daughter is 11 as well.
Yeah.
And so she understands, about sex. And
more.
so I'm thankful, though, that they still do, like, the ill thing. So that's how you know when your kids still have innocence. When you're, like, ill, so that's a good thing. When kissing is nasty and all that, that's really good. So don't be knocking on the door. The door is locked at the Bell house.
Sure she was.
But yeah, I'm sure she was more embarrassed.
I was mortified.
But I
couldn't look at my mother the same way for weeks.
But don't hide it. Don't be embarrassed. If you're married, you love it, you enjoy. It's great that you love your husband enough to even want to do that. But just have the conversation with her and just say, hey, you want to talk about it? If she does want to talk about it, don't let her. Don't force her.
But don't make it an uncomfortable type of scenario.
Yeah.
Embrace it. Do it up. Why I was on daddy? Why you ain't allowed to go? Why you ain't allowed to go? Nah, I'm just playing. I understand it. Stuff happens, and so, but embrace it. Talk about it. If she wants to talk about it, if she doesn't, but don't make it just this thing like pretend like it didn't happen.
Yeah, don't.
It was what it was. Hey, you and your husband are married. It's within the confines of the Bible. It's all good.
That's right.
And we need to teach our children that we need to have healthy conversations with our children about sex.
Yeah.
That was our
number 11.
Yeah, that was our addendum of number 11. But having healthy conversations with your children when they are mature enough to handle it, to process it.
And showing them a porn is not talking about sex.
That ain't it. But that can be the spark of having an appropriate conversation, a healthy conversation about sex, so that they understand how sex is to be enjoyed within the confines of marriage, how God intended. Sex is not a nasty thing, but we make it so nasty and taboo and so gross or whatever. But it stops being gross after a certain time with our kids. So we need to make sure that they are equipped with the right information, because at some point it's not going to be gross. Right now, my son he's like right on the fence of girls are gross, but now he's kind of like digging the attention. And so he's starting to notice girls are shaped different and filling it out in certain parts and all that certain thing. So yeah, it's not gross. It's not going to be gross. Probably next year this time, he's not going to be earring anymore. So I need to prep him for, he's prepared for that, and he's equipped with information for that. So, have healthy conversations about sex and love and romance and all those types of things with your children, so they aren't dysfunctional adults that have never seen their parents kiss, so they don't know how to be affectionate and those types of things.
Absolutely. So that's it. We hope that you enjoyed this. We loved you. We love you guys. We hope that you share this with your followers. Thanks to you that joined us on the line tonight. We will repost the replay. We will join us tomorrow on Wifeability, our Wifeability University. We're talking about submission. So if you have a problem with submission, tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern, we're going to talk about submission. But tonight, our discussion on kids and parenting. We hope that it was a blessing to you. We had an awesome time preparing for it, doing our research with our own children. We don't want to talk about something that we don't live in our own home. Now, we would have had our kids come in here, but they're a little extra. We'll do another scope with the kids.
Yeah, we have to have something.
Because they something else. Y'all will
be like, sir,
right, and
ma'am,
we won't get nothing done. So we'll have to have a scope with them. So we love you guys. Have a great night, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Peace.